I'm Lisa. I'm with the Front Range chapter of Wild Ones, and today we're in one of our members' gardens here in Centennial. This is a southwest facing garden, full sun, low water, and it is about 2 seasons old. Many of the plants were seeded this past spring. A few were put in the year prior. So as you can see, the plants have taken off. They've loved the hot summer. The rabbit brush is just coming into bloom. The Colorado 4 o'clocks are still in bloom. The goldenrods and the autumn sapphire salvia is blooming, as well as the blanket flowers, which are giving pollen and nectar to our honeybees and our native bumblebees. What we're here to collect today is the Rudbeckia hirta. This is our native black-eyed Susan. You can see some of the plant still has flowers on it, but we're looking to collect are the really dry seed heads. These are like miniature sunflowers, so they're full of seeds. And you want to pick a stem that has mostly browned from the flower head down to the first leaf. And I just use the clippers to clip it. And then you can crush them with your hand a little bit, or just let gravity take its course and seeds will just fall out of the flower. I've been collecting just for a handful of minutes, and already I have loads of seed that have fallen from the flower stems into the bag. And they're like miniature sunflower seeds, teeny tiny. You don't ever want to take the whole seed off the plant. You do want to leave some for our native birds to forage over winter, but you can easily in a home garden take a pretty sizable percentage and not do any harm to the ecosystem. In order to store the seeds, you want to keep species separate, and this is our Rudbeckia hirta. You label it with the botanic name, the common name black-eyed Susan, the location, we're in a garden in Centennial, and then the elevation, we're at about 5,800 feet, as well as the date of collection, so the month and year. We're going to be having a native seed swap, which is open to the public. We co-host this event with the People and Pollinators Action Network in the fall, and seeds are a great way for people who are new to native gardening, good diversity of species into their gardens. We are collecting the Retibita columnifera. This is the prairie coneflower, not to be confused with the echinacea varieties that are also known as coneflower. This plant blooms yellow in hot sun, dry conditions. There are also red selections of the species out there and in this garden as well. So the seeds from this plant may or may not be true to the yellow. They may come out red, they may come out orange. This plant is super easy to collect from. Quite honestly, the seeds are ready to just fall off in your hand. It's one of the easiest plants out there to collect. You want to go for dry stems. So if there are stems on the plant that are still green, those might not be yet ripe. But anything really dry will just pull off in your hand, and that is hundreds of seeds per flower. So seeds are a great way to introduce more plants into your garden. This is blanket flower, or gallerity aristada. This is another prairie native, loves hot, dry conditions, and that's all it's getting out here in this west-facing garden. It is swarming with life. We have lots of honeybees and bumblebees that visit this plant. And as you can see, we've got flowers in full bloom. We have some spent flower heads, but mostly what we want when we're collecting are the dry heads. So stems that are nice and crispy and flower heads that are completely dry. And these we're going to put in a paper bag. I like to use paper for collecting because seeds are alive, they need to breathe. This is Penstemon strictus, or our Rocky Mountain penstemon. This is an absolute favorite of our bumblebees, our native bumblebee species. The queens will come out and forage on this every morning in June, when this is in bloom in early June. Very showy plant. It will put up a fall rebloom sometimes, and you can see a blossom on one of these other plants here. It's a really beautiful purple color. To collect this seed, you want to wait again till the seed heads are very dry and pretty much brown and crispy all the way down the stem. You can use the clippers to clip the whole head or stem And then you want to be sure to have a bag handy, because if you turn this upside down, the seeds just fall out, and they are teeny, teeny, tiny. So I will demonstrate that. You just turn it upside down. If you were closer, you could hear them rattling into the bottom. They're tiny and black. Any insects that might have been on those stems as you drop it into the bag, if you leave the bag open overnight, it'll enable them to come out. We have labeled the bag with the species name, the common name, the location collected, and the elevation, as well as the date collected. And we will be having this plant available at our upcoming native seed swap. This is Colorado 4 o'clocks. This is a perennial that grows in extremely dry conditions. It is very showy. It is not at its peak at the moment because it's not after 4 o'clock. The flowers open in the afternoon, and they yield pollen to our night feeding pollinators, so the moths love this plant. To harvest seed off of this, you don't want to go for the flowers that are just spent. You want to find ones that are nice and brown and crispy. And what I like to do, the seeds are held way at the base of the flower. So I just crush the flower in my hand, roll it in my thumbs a little bit, and lo and behold, I've got 1, 2, 3 seeds out of this plant, plus a lot of immature seeds. Not everything on the flower seems to pollinate, but after some patient collecting, you can get a goodly number of plants. And again, this plant gets big, so 3 to 6 feet wide at maturity. So this many seeds are going to cover a lot of ground. So we're cleaning seeds from Rocky Mountain Iris. This is a plant that grows up to 9,000 feet. Does prefer a little bit moister conditions, but it can go dry in the summer if it is getting sufficient spring moisture or snow. This is another plant where you harvest the whole seed head, and the seeds will just fall out if you turn it upside down. Although this one tends to need a little bit of help, because if you just turn it upside down, you're not going to get all the seeds. You do need to crush them a little bit to really get them to come out of the pods. So this is the annual sunflower, and we're doing some cleaning because this plant does not come out very clean if you just clip the heads. We've got some ripe flowers here, some heads that aren't quite ready, and then some really dried heads that the birds have already picked every seed off this plant clean. So for seed heads, we harvested them just a little past this stage and then let them dry a little bit out of the bird's reach. I actually covered them because I was worried they would get into them. And the seeds you're going for are like these. They look like sunflower seeds that you eat, but they're just a little smaller and a little bit lighter in color. Again, the birds have been at these plants. They love them, but you can find some seeds typically around the edge of the flower head. There are still some seeds lurking. So this is a little bit of a fussier plant to harvest from, but well worth it because this plant is very popular with our native pollinators and our native bird species. So this is buffalo burr, or buffalo burr nightshade. This is one of those plants that might not work in every native garden, but if you're next door to a prairie dog colony or adjacent to some open space and have a lot of room to fill, this might be one for you to try. It is extremely pretty and very prickly. Very, very prickly. This is one to harvest. Again, really dry seed heads. Stick them upside down. As those heads open, the seed just falls into the bag. But if you want to maximize what your yield is, you can try taking a hammer, and I should be wearing gloves because this is extremely prickly, and just try smashing the pods a little bit and more seed will fall out. This is one of those native plants that most people will refer to as a weed because of its prickly nature and the fact that it is poisonous. So this is the gallerity aristada, the native blanket flower that we just collected. And in order to clean the seeds off the flower head, it's very easy and much easier when the flower heads are dry. you just break them apart and the seeds come right off. They are seeds that are both dispersed by animals as well as by wind, because these have these little tufts at the ends of the seeds. And those we can leave on the seeds. That's not a real big concern when you're working in home gardener situations. We're not selling these seeds professionally, so we're not asking for professional cleaning. But sometimes you can just blow the tray a little, and sometimes the seeds stay and sometimes they disperse with the flower petals. But really you want as clean a batch of seeds as possible.